Do good, Maverick. Go here. Welcome to podcast episode number 120. Sometimes rock bottom can be solid ground. Oftentimes when people are failing, when we are failing at something, there might also be a positive aspect to it, And once you've been through some harsh failures or a really hard failure, there might be some advantages that we oftentimes overlook. And one lady that I think has a very fascinating explanation to this is J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter books. I found a clip of her from a speech on YouTube. Let me try to play it off, and hopefully the audio will be good enough. Let's try.
A mere 7 years after my graduation day, I had failed on an epic scale. An exceptionally short-lived marriage had imploded, and I was jobless, a lone parent, and as poor as it is possible to be in modern Britain without being homeless. The fears that my parents had had for me and that I had had for myself had both come to pass. And by every usual standard, I was the biggest failure I knew. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that failure is fun. That period of my life was a dark one. And I had no idea that there was going to be what the press has since represented as a kind of fairy tale resolution. I had no idea then how far the tunnel extended. And for a long time, any light at the end of it was a hope rather than a reality. So why do I talk about the benefits of failure? Simply because failure meant a stripping away of the inessential. I stopped pretending to myself that I was anything other than what I was, and began to direct all my energy into finishing the only work that mattered to me. Had I really succeeded at anything else, I might never have found the determination to succeed in the one arena where I believed I truly belonged. I was set free because my greatest fear had been realized, and I was still alive, and I still had a daughter whom I adored, and I had an old typewriter and a big idea. And so rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. You might never fail on the scale I did, but some failure in life is inevitable. It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default. Failure gave me an inner security that I had never attained by passing examinations. Failure taught me things about myself that I could have learned no other way. I discovered that I had a strong will and more discipline than I had suspected. I also found out that I had friends whose value was truly above the price of rubies. The knowledge that you have emerged wiser and stronger from setbacks means that you are ever after secure in your ability to survive. You will never truly know yourself or the strength of your relationships until both have been tested by adversity. Such knowledge is a true gift.
Brothers. Yeah, there you have it. That last line, I guess it was this one. It's cited as a quote online. I was set free because my greatest fear I was set free because my greatest fear had already been realized, and I was still alive, and I still had a daughter whom I adored, and I had an old typewriter and a big idea, and so rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. J.K. Rowling. And so rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. Isn't that inspiring? She had a lot of great points there in that speech, a stripping away of the unessential and set free. Her greatest fear had already been realized. You know, oftentimes people are, you know, fear is one of the biggest things that are holding a lot of people back in life. And fear has a tendency to kind of freeze people into inaction, you know. But since her greatest fear, in her case, since her greatest fear was already realized, now what was she afraid of? You know, so it's in that case, it's really, really fascinating. Yeah. Sometimes rock bottom can be solid ground. Keep that in mind. You know, you might be closer to success than you think. And the failure or rock bottom that you are currently experiencing, oftentimes when we look back at things with another perspective, we often realize that it wasn't as bad as we thought it was. You know, things often look really dark and maybe even hopeless while we are in the middle of it. But if you keep going, work for the best, and don't give up, oftentimes it can end with a breakthrough, maybe even massive success, you know. Anyway, I just thought I'd jump on and share that one because it might be of inspiration for some people. And by the way, if you have not yet checked out communitycashcows.com, I highly advise you to do so. You know, it's about paid communities. I'm in the process of interviewing at least 30 real-life success stories of people that are making at least $10,000 in profit per month. So far, at the time of this recording, I have not interviewed all 30 yet, but I've interviewed a bunch of them, and it has been super inspiring stuff. I was expecting the interviews to be really good, but it actually turned out even better than I thought, you know. And one thing that really surprised me was how quickly several of these people did it. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold. Yeah, one of the things that really surprised me was how quickly several of these people were doing it. From the day they launched until they reached $10,000 in profit per month. But yeah, if you want to learn from those real life success stories and also connect with a bunch of other people that are in the process of building their own paid community, I highly advise you to check out communitycashcows.com. And who knows, I don't know what your situation is, what your current situation is, but maybe building your own paid community can be a part of your you know, your comeback story or your takeoff until your takeoff into greater success, you know. Anyway, check it out on communitycashcows.com. Take care and God bless.